day, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. I'm here with Mike Konnert. He's the CEO of Vizsla Silver. Vizsla trades VZLA on the venture and also VZLA on the NYSE ARCA. Uh, he put out some pretty impressive news today. People that follow the stock, I think, well, I know because several have asked me, they were waiting and hoping to see more drill results from a relatively new vein discovery called Kopala. This is a discovery that was made by Vizsla. It wasn't known before. And the first couple of news releases regarding it that had a few holes included some pretty impressive ones. And now you've put out a set of very, very impressive ones and enlarge the area of it. Can you walk us through the results that you put out this morning, and then we can sort of talk about their significance other than the obvious significance?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, the team has been doing an amazing job at the project here. So we've gone from basically 2 years of drilling, making significant discoveries at Napoleon, Tajitos, and the most recent discovery that we made towards the end of last year was at Kopala. And Kopala with 8 holes contributed about 24 million ounces of combined indicated and inferred resources towards the resource statement that we put out earlier this year. Now we've added another 24 holes in this release to that zone, the Kopala zone, and it's grown by now the mineralized zone is about 600 meters by 400 meters. And the difference about the reason Kopala is different is that it's far wider in terms of the vein here. It's far thicker than the other veins in the system here, Tajitos and Napoleon, and the orientation is different. It's more of a flatline structure. So to find one of these preserved in the district, undercover was a huge surprise for us. It's something that we're looking forward to finding more. But these grades and the thickness here is just really, really impressive. So we're very excited about the Kopala discovery. We have 3 rigs turning on it right now. Today's headline number was 1,030 grams per ton silver equivalent over 20.45 meters, and that was the best one. But we had other holes like 900 grams per ton silver equivalent over 14.5 meters, 1.3 kilos over 3.5 meters, true thickness. So some spectacular grades here. So our expectations have been exceeded, and we're very excited about Kopala.
Yeah, one thing I'll note too, that just so that viewers understand that, is that Vizsla commonly, unlike a lot of explorers, Vizsla commonly releases true width measurements. So that 20 meters isn't 20 meters downhole, it's 20 meters true width, and the same goes for all the other intercepts that he reeled off. Now, I mean, obviously, Kopala is something special. I mean, Napoleon and Tajitos are no slouches either. But what is it that makes Kopala, if you will? I mean, your geological team, why do they think this zone delivers the widths and the thicknesses and the grades it does? Is there something particular, and is that attribute something you can use to try to find more Kopalas?
Well, I think it has to do more with the location in this district here, where there's been some post, I suppose some faulting that has allowed for the fluids to kind of occur in larger concentrations on a flatline orientation rather than the vertical orientation that we see at Napoleon and Tajitos. So we don't know exactly what's causing that, but we are doing work to kind of understand this a little bit better, and so we can vector into other flatline structures in the system. And the Kopala isn't alone. There's the La Colorada flatline structure to the north of Tajitos. That's one that actually was drilled in the past. One of the very few amount of veins that were drilled in the past 20, 30 years on the project. and it was subsequently mined out by the locals over the last few decades. There is one other one in the district that we're familiar with, that the same thing happened. It's actually the vein that we went to originally when we came to the project. Craig and I actually took our own sample underground there, and it came back with extreme high grades, and it's just huge face of mineralization with high grades. And that was one that had been exhausted by the old timers. So we know that these exist elsewhere in the district. We think that we see the potential expressions of a couple of others in the general area as well, near Kopala. So this won't be the last flatline vein structure like this that we find in the district, but for us to get onto something here that now is 600 by 400, and we're drilling width here of 10 to 80 meters, this is huge, and I think the reason why we're so excited about this is that in addition to now Napoleon and Tajitos, we have something that has the potential to support bulk underground large scale mining. So you could really see why or how Vizsla can turn into a very large scale, large tonnage, high grade producer of precious metals with structures like Kopala. So this really is a game changer. I don't think that the market understands this yet, but for us to go in the last 6 months or so and very rapidly put together what we see here is in terms of mineralization, just speaks to first of all the prospectivity of the district, and then how fast you can add tonnage on structures like this.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things here that sort of bear repeating and maybe elucidating a little more. As you mentioned, you had, I don't know, I think it was like 20 million, 25 million ounces indicated and inferred from 8 holes. If readers look at your news release today, if you take a close look at the incline long section, you can see the gray shading. That's essentially the resource that was included in your maiden resource, and you can kind of see where these pierce points are. And you noted that it's open along strike and down dip. I mean, you've clearly made it quite a bit bigger. I'd say Kopala probably gives you the potential to get to, I don't know, a couple 100 million ounces here fairly quickly. And the speed's important. And I know you guys you've always kind of targeted large scale production. I mean, obviously in the era of 43-101, you have to be a little careful what you say. But I mean, I know the kind of numbers you and Craig are thinking, and they're certainly doable in an underground setting, but they're not easy. If you're dealing with stuff that's 2 or 3 meters wide, I mean, you need a hell of a lot of stopes, even with high grade. But I would agree that Kopala, and if you can, especially if you can find a couple more Kopalas, it does kind of change things because, there's a big difference between mining 1.5 meter wide faces on vertical veins and mining, 15, 20 meter faces with bulk underground. I mean, you can simply move a hell of a lot more tons. And I think for those people that have been frustrated because they're hoping to see this earlier, and I'm not one of those people. I'm not a believer in doing economic studies any earlier than you have to. I mean, you need to be shooting for the big numbers when you do those. And I think anyone wondering why they haven't seen, say, you know, an early, say, a PEA out of these guys. I think a big part of the thing is scale, right? I mean, you simply don't know yet. I mean, you know the scale in a perfect world that you want to have, but I don't think you guys want to be doing this until you've got some comfort that you can design a mine plan at the kind of scale you guys want. You don't really want to be doing oh, look, here's a really fast PEA that's 1/3 of the size of an operation that we actually want to be.
No, we don't want to make the mistake of undersizing a PEA, and it has to be right sized for this district. And maybe I'll share the screen here quickly and show that shaded area. But what I think is important to take away here, and it probably bears me repeating it, but it's Napoleon, Tajitos, Kopala made up a sizable resource for us in March when we put that out. That was less than 5% of the overall vein strike in the district, and that's the stuff that we know about. We made the discovery of Kopala, basically by stepping back and drilling through the hanging wall of Tajitos, and it was there. We drilled 80 meters, 83 meters of, I think it was over 180 grams silver equivalent, true width. And, for us to make a discovery like that while drilling into another discovery that we recently made that we're, putting meaningful ounces on, like Tajitos, it would be, you really be shooting yourself in the foot to wrap economics around something like this too early. But again, it's, this is all less than 5% of that vein width, their vein strike that we have across the district. And it's all concentrated in one area that's all about 500, 400 meters away from each other, Napoleon and Kopala and Tajitos. So if you're thinking about, if you're a company that's interested in large scale silver and gold production like Vizsla is, and you're thinking about building a large scale operation, how you're going to do that, well, you want a couple of things. You want multiple open faces of production, you want grade, and you want width, and you want it all in the same area so that you don't have to truck it 10 miles down the road and blow all your money on diesel. So what we're looking at here, in my guesstimation, or obviously under 43-101, we can't be too specific here, but you have these veins and orientations that lend themselves to multiple phases of underground mining. So you have Napoleon that's over 3 kilometers of strike. You have Tajitos, it's about 1 kilometer in strike. And now you have Kopala that is relatively flat lying, which gives you the ability to do large scale underground mining as well. You could see in the future where you might have a production facility nearby these veins, and you could be producing a significant amount of metal every year in a relatively contained area here. So that's wonderful. But then if you zoom out and you look at where we are here in this inlier map here, you see it's just such a small portion of the overall district that we're going to be here producing and drilling for many years to come. But this is the I should say we'd like to be here producing and drilling as we move forward and go through the requisite studies. I shouldn't be too promotional like that, but you can see the resource shell here, the indicated and inferred, and then you can see where Kopala. So this would be the area that was contributing to the resource here, just north of this Cristiano fault, and
right,
into the yellow and the red and the purple contours here. This is all the new drilling that we put out here, and it seems that this Cristiano fault has opened things up here to the north of Tajitos, and they might actually have something to do with Kopala, right, the formation of it. But we're open here to the north. The Surreal vein is up here, and our geologists have suggested that it likely should continue to Surreal and to the south here as well. And then also down essentially over to the east. So we have 3 rigs turning on Kopala right now. I expect continued good news from Kopala. But then elsewhere, in the district, I don't know, do you want me to talk about what else?
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you because you and I talked about it briefly. I mean, you've got a new VP exploration, or recently new VP exploration, and you mentioned to me that he's kind of gone back to first principles. He's got a doctorate in epithermal deposits, so he knows a thing or two, and he's got some ideas about where you should look, and some thoughts about, I guess, maybe some thoughts about why you're finding the good stuff, where you're finding it within the camp. I mean, do you want to speak to that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so Jesus Valedor has just recently joined us. He was, he's an expert on epithermal systems. He's worked in Mexico for his entire career, and was on the discovery team for the Fresnillo side of Valdecañas, the Meg Silver discovery. And he's I couldn't think of a more perfect person for the role here. He actually lives in Durango, which is up the road from the district, and this is more or less his backyard. Now when he arrived at the project, he took a step back and just looked at it academically, and the company Vizsla has been basically flat out since we started here, drilling and going through targets. So it's something that's really helpful, is just to go back, like you said, to first principles and take a look at what's really happening here. And one of the ideas that he had is that we do know that there's fault structures here to the west of Napoleon, but historically there hasn't really been any exploration or work to the west here. So what we've done is investigate this with our exploration team, and what we found is that there's a layer of volcanics that seem to cover the outcropping vein systems here to the west. And so we're looking at different ways of targeting these veins, whether it be through soil sampling. We've been working on that electromagnetic survey, trying to bring the equipment in across the border from the US, but the suppliers in the US are first of all so busy with exploration work over there, and also are a bit deterred by the customs process, bringing their high-tech equipment across the border. So I think right now we'll probably be able to do airborne magnetics, but not the electromagnetics that Charles wants to do. That might be pushed into next year until we can find a supplier that has the capabilities, that's willing to come into Mexico. We weren't able to find it domestically, but we will be able to do some airborne magnetics that I think should help us understand and ideally see the signatures of structures running through the west here that might be under cover of volcanics. But that to me is pretty exciting to think about La Luisa here as a structure that I think we'll get to drilling in the future. But if we could find another preserved Napoleon to the west, that would be great. But really, as we learn more about Kopala and the flatline structures, for us to find and target those, I think would be, really something spectacular. If you think about how many ounces it's possible that we've added here with our drilling at Kopala in such a short period of time, for us to find even one or two more of those, would Vizsla's already, I think, in a league of its own in terms of something on this scale, a large tonnage, high grade district that's recently been consolidated in Mexico. It really doesn't exist in the hands of a junior anymore. So for us to really, to dig into more of these structures and add ounces rapidly, would just continue to show that this is a really a tier one asset and a total rarity in the hands of a junior.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think my subscribers know I'm not, strictly speaking, a silver bug. I'm not really an anything bug. But, one thing I've always liked about this is obviously the grades. I like the fact that most of your better and larger zones actually carry pretty good gold grades. Some of them are actually gold dominant. Although I do, like most people, I do think silver is going to have its day in the sun, and it may not be that far from now. I mean, I've stated several times that I expect gold to have the sort of move that it had in 2002, 2008, and we're probably, we might have seen the bottom. I don't know yet. I'm expecting Wall Street to go lower, but I think if we haven't seen it, we're very close to the start of that, where you see the pivot and you see precious metals really move. And there aren't, I just think Vizsla's got an extraordinary amount of leverage. You've already put out a 100 million ounce plus resource. I suspect if you have much more success, and you may already be there or close to it with Kopala, not to mention obviously the other things you're drilling, I think your odds of doubling that before the year's out are actually pretty good. Can you give us, I mean, not so much rig numbers, but just in a general sense, aside from Kopala, where else are you guys drilling right now?
Yeah, so Napoleon remains a focus for us. So we have 3 rigs there. We have 3 rigs on Kopala and 3 rigs on Napoleon. And the down plunge and at depth drilling at Napoleon is keeping our actually. Maybe I'll flip to the slide. It's keeping our thesis here intact, where drilling in this precious metals rich core of the system down here, essentially under the Guy and Arrow zone and further to the south, is continuing to give us great grades. Napoleon will continue to grow, I believe. Our research, and we've had Dick Silito and other experts to the project. They suspect that the depth extent of Napoleon is quite significant. And again, it's going to be overshadowed now with with Kopala. Kopala is just has huge widths, but
Right.
Napoleon's a 3.5 meter wide structure as well. And that's an excellent underground mining width. And if you're sitting there and looking at how do you run an operation here in Mexico? And we've got the high grade Guy and Arrow zone at surface, which is 13 million ounces at, I believe it's 640 grams silver equivalent. That's all within, I think it's 100 meters of surface. It's all near surface high grade stuff. And then if you look at that in the context of combining that with high grade huge widths at Kopala, you can start to see how this comes together. But that's great to start. But what about years later? Well, the depth extent of Napoleon is really holding together and shows excellent grades and widths as well. So Napoleon is continuing to be important to us. So we're drilling Kopala, Tajitos, Napoleon, but we also have rigs to the middle of the district here, Rosarito, which is on the northern end of Animas, and then Los Generales as well too. Generales, I think we should have some news out on that in the coming weeks, but we've had some great success there, and historically with high grades of silver and gold and really nice widths as well. So I know a lot of people will be focusing and thinking about the western area here, so Napoleon, Tajitos, Kopala. But if you wanted to think about, well, where does Vizsla go outside of that, let's say kind of initial mine plan that may come in the coming weeks, and I shouldn't say weeks, coming years here from Vizsla, well, you could look to the central area, Los Generales and Rosarito. And then, as we progress, we have been doing some drilling in the past up here at Nacaral and Broche del Oro, but the value that we're getting out of the west and the central area, I think is more important right now. And so we're going to do more work to work up the east. You can see, compared to the center and the west, it's just massively underexplored. We're confident that there's going to be more veins. And eventually this map will fill in, and you'll see, as you see here in the west, these kind of smaller splay veins and structures, the red lines here indicating inferred veins. That'll happen, but we've really only been here for about two years so far, and the progress that we made in terms of resources and drilling is quite staggering. But the upside of this district is just absolutely enormous.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I've said for a couple of years now that Vizsla's one silver stock that most reminds me of Silvercrest, and I still follow Silvercrest Metals. I followed the original. I followed all of its iterations pretty much from day one, and Panuca's always felt to me like it's got that same kind of large scale, high grade potential, and today's results make that obvious. I think precious metals are going to have their day here fairly soon, and like I said, Visa's got enormous leverage to metal price moves, and well, it's going to take some time, and it should, for you to put out economics, because you just, like you said, you need to right size this thing. There's no point doing that too early. But it's not lost on me that the mid-size, larger producers out there that are looking for new resources are quite capable of doing the math on their own. They don't need to wait for years. So, well, I wouldn't envision this as something that's a near-term possibility. I think a few months out and longer, you've got to, as a shareholder, you've got to keep in mind that the potential for Visa to be an M&A target's quite real. I mean, there aren't that many things out here that would give an acquirer the kind of scale and grade of production potential that it looks like Panuco is going to be able to deliver. I mean, it's another great discovery. You guys have done a great job since day one. You got a whole pile of rigs going. You still got lots of cash. News flow's going to be continuous, I imagine, for the next year plus. I don't know what else to say other than congrats on another great discovery, Mike. You, Craig, you know, everybody in the team. I mean, you guys have done a great job here, and I'm sure you're going to continue to. So I will talk to you again the next time you've got a nice big set of thick, high grade intersections to share with the market. This is Mike Konnert, CEO of Vizsla Resources, VZLA on the venture, VZLA NYSE ARCA. Great silver story, great results. Congrats, guys.
Thanks, Eric. I really appreciate that, and appreciate your support and your followers being shareholders as well too. So thank you for that.
Thanks very much, everybody. See you soon.